Hey everyone, welcome to Clearing the Lens, Clarity on Your Path to Awakening. This is our premiere episode right now, coming live to you in the healing space. I am here with Laura Mazzotta, the Akashic therapist, and Danielle Hope Wolf, the medical medium and psychic medium. And we are excited to bring you today's premiere episode. We will be bringing this to you live in the healing space on Laura's page and on Danielle's page bi-weekly on Thursdays. So I wanted to kind of initially explain to all of you and share with you what the show is about. This show is a sacred space that has been created as a full expression of healing, self-awareness, and development of resilience, insight, and empowered personal development. We share with you and guide you through the importance of self-love, honoring all the layers of your self-connection so that they deepen. And we hold the intention that you gain greater understanding of the spiritual path, the process of awakening, and you feel connected and supported in a larger community so that you do not have to navigate alone or have to feel your way in the dark. And I just read that from my notes, and this is how it printed out. So I think the universe is telling me something. I must be Mrs. Magoo right now. So
I think so.
Right? With that said, I'm going to turn it over to Laura. Introduce yourself to everyone. Let everyone know who you are.
Hi, everybody. My name is Laura Mazzotta. I'm the Akashic therapist, and I guide women who are struggling with chronic illness or anxiety to create their own wellness plan and be able to really access those resources within to heal themselves. And I operate from the page Emerge Healing and Wellness. So we would love it if you guys would give us a like and a love and share this out. If it's something that you feel somebody that you know or a loved one might benefit from, to learn about this path of awakening, spirituality, and healing. Danielle?
Yes. Awesome. That was so beautiful. You guys are so great at this. So let me try without botching it too much. Hi, everybody. I'm Danielle. I'm a psychic medium. I am also a registered nurse, which has kind of led me into combining those two careers, and I do some medical intuition work as well. I guess my whole intention with being here today with you guys really, and to be part of this show, is really all of the things that Laura and Ray said. In my practice, my goal, my intention is to hold a space of love and healing for those who are grieving the loss of a loved one. Also those that are looking to connect with a loved one who's passed away. Also, I provide medical intuitive guidance, information, developing plans of care, how to approach your medical doctors and getting the answers that you need, that you seek, really all about health empowerment. So also I operate from, my website is daniellehopewolf.com, and also here on Facebook, Danielle Hope Wolf, also an author too.
Yes. Yes, she is an author.
I know.
So I'm Raylan Sandin, and I am the healing guide, energy alchemist, and channel of We Are We consciousness in the healing space, this space that you're watching us from right now. I am a certified Reiki Master teacher. I'm certified in emotion code and Ho'oponopono, and as well as a graduate of Hypnosis Motivational Institute in California. And so I work in hypnosis, hypnotherapy, and life regression work as well. You can find me obviously here in the healing space and on thehealingspaceco.com. I love to work with individuals that are newly awakening, maybe are kind of mystified as to why they feel other people's energy, why are they so swayed by people's moods, by the energy and environments, why are they feeling kind of as though they don't belong, or something's off about them, or they've always felt different. People have always been attracted to tell them their stuff, offload their things onto them. I also help people who have backgrounds of trauma as well to kind of navigate that and get through it. And it's exciting work that I think each of the three of us, we do. And it's exciting to be bringing a collaborative effort here in this space for everyone. And it is my intention as well to inform, enlighten, and help you discover and empower your own healing through this process of awakening as well. So we're excited to bring you clarity on your path of awakening. Hey!
Yay!
I say that this is a sacred space, Raylan, because it really is. You know, we wanted to provide an environment where you do have access to people who have gone through this, who are still going through this process, who always probably will be, right? We're all on this journey together.
Yes.
Have a space to ask questions from, you know, Danielle has her medical background. I have my mental health background. Raylan has her hypnosis and her trauma background.
And psychology too, sorry.
Psychology, you know, to really add to, so we have some wisdom of obviously the modern world's, this human experience, but also from this path that we've been on. So to give you a space to be able to ask and hopefully we can answer those questions for you or guide you in the right direction and help you feel like you're not really struggling through it. Because I think, you know, we talked together about how what our intentions were for this space, right? And what we were looking for this space to serve for people. And I know for me, it's about not really wanting people to walk away from the spiritual awakening process because of the struggles they can encounter during that process. And also not feeling like something's wrong with you if you hit the roadblocks that are so natural to hit when you are experiencing this. Like Raylan said, she likes to work with people who are very new in the awakening process. And it's interesting because I'm coming from the mental health world, really working with people who don't necessarily even have an awareness of that yet, right? They're experiencing mental illness or they're experiencing physical illness and they don't necessarily get the connection to energetically or spiritually, and to be able to help them see that and heal themselves without putting labels on it, without having to say something's wrong with me and sitting in the negativity.
100%. And, you know, I think for so many years, I know for myself, I just didn't understand. I didn't have any language for it. I didn't know that that's, like you just said, I didn't know that that's what I was going through. And I think the two of you can agree to that as well. You know, in your own experiences, it's like, you just know something weird or off, or why does this keep showing up for me, etc. And so it's been decades of this process for me, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Totally.
For me, it was emotional for many years. You know, it was cycles of depression and anxiety, and I've always gotten sick. Like I've always been somebody who gets sick. And then when I got sepsis a few years ago and got really, really ill and have been struggling in cycles since then, I realized how much that emotional stuff kind of condensed to physical stuff, you know, and that when I go through my periods of not feeling well or not doing well, I'm now able to, I now have a different mindset and a different perspective. So I'm not looking at it as, oh my gosh, am I ever going to get out of this? And poor me, oh my God, somebody save me. Like I used to for years, you know. Now I know that, okay, I need to be patient. I am a vessel that is here in service to the highest good of everyone around here. I need to honor that is my purpose, and that is why I'm here.
I love that.
And utilize those tools that you've kind of picked up along the way on the spiritual journey, you know, because I feel like once we have the awareness that, oh, wait, we actually do have some control over what's going on in our lives. We do have some control in our perceptions and kind of shifting through this awakening process. It doesn't mean that we're void of having really difficult things happen. We still have all the same difficult things happen. The really cool thing is that when you're constantly working on yourself, you actually start to pick up these little nuggets, these little tools that you can throw in your backpack, so that when you do have an exacerbation or a relapse or a big trauma or a big loss, or, you know, something shifts in your life where you kind of feel like you're put into a hurricane situation, you now have the awareness where you can say, okay, I understand that this is part of the evolution of what I'm supposed to be going through for whatever reason. If I don't even know what the reasoning is, I know there is a higher reason. There is a higher purpose for it. So let me start pulling out some of these little tools out of my backpack, and, oh, maybe I can use this one today. Yes. Oh, do I feel better? Maybe a little bit. So maybe I should pull this one out too.
So let's start at the beginning then and kind of share briefly each of our stories, right? And then we can go into what our tools are. How did our tools come to be? How did we even find those tools? Where the heck do we even look for the tools? And how do we even know there are tools?
Totally.
So for myself, I had my background is my childhood was filled with childhood neglect, history of abuse that was handed down generationally on both sides of my family. I didn't know my biological father. He was extremely abusive to my mother at the time. My mother lived in a childhood of abuse herself through her father and that situation. And then my stepfather molested me at a young age for a period of about 5-6 years. So I came into this world fully having the cognizant awareness of just really not knowing who I was, and even believing that I belonged where I was dropped at, right? And so I had situations where I can remember I was 10 years old and I was awakened in the middle of the night and asked to speak to my uncle, who was 9 years older than me and who was threatening suicide, a very real threat. He literally felt that. And so I was asked to go talk to him at 10. And I remember even being younger than that, being, 5 years old and having the adults in my life come to me with their stuff and telling me about their stuff, strangers, kids at school, parent or teachers at school and mentors and all of that. And so I always had this sensory awareness of there was something unique about me in that way. I didn't really know what it was or why. I wasn't entirely sure I wanted it, but I also recognized and began to realize that I could feel other people's stuff too. And so I took it on myself, thinking in my child mind that it was my responsibility then to shift the emotions for everybody in order for me to feel safe. So it was a coping mechanism for me. So that's kind of my story, and we'll go from there. So anybody else who wants to share yours?
Do you want to go around?
It's all you.
Oh, I think we're echoing a little bit.
Oh, go ahead and share, Danielle.
Okay, so my stories, I don't really remember a whole lot going on when I was young, when I was little. I did suffer abuse as a kiddo. But I was able to kind of work through that. And then as an adult, I'm trying to think like I was more on the spirituality side as opposed to the emotional side, kind of as a kiddo, because my family was more kind of focused on the spirituality. So in my family, it was okay to talk about seeing spirit, and it was okay to talk about warnings, we called them. So my family told me when I was really young that I had an ability to tell when people were going to die. Wow. I don't remember having that ability until I was about 16. And when I was 16, I started having dreams, and loved ones would come to me and tell me that they were going to pass away. And then when it happened, then I started getting really scared because I thought I was manifesting it somehow. I thought I was creating them, their passing, and I didn't want it at all.
Right.
And then kind of as an adult, when I would work in, I'm a nurse. And so in the hospital with patients that were passing away or patients that were sick or after patients had passed away, I always felt I felt the energy. It felt different. I would get the hairs on the back of my neck would stand up. There were rooms that I wouldn't go into by myself. I didn't like doing postmortem care by myself. I mean, there were a lot of things that like really made me feel icky. And then, but I was able to kind of talk myself out of those things. And then after the passing of my brother, things really started opening up for me. Things really started, I thought I was having anxiety. I thought I was losing my mind. I thought I was going crazy. I did have an emotional breakdown. But after I kind of recovered from that and started going back to life kind of normal, I would have these I felt like I was being watched. I felt like I was being enveloped in a coating substance. I felt this almost like this panic. And so for some reason, I felt this desire to see a medium. I don't know. And I had a lot of paranormal things going on in my house, and it was just kind of crazy. And so once I connected with her, she was like, oh no, you're awakening. And this is just your brother. And now you're starting to become aware of all of the different things that are going on around you. And shortly thereafter, I actually lost my health and got really sick with multiple sclerosis. And I also, like Laura, I was really sick a lot as a kid. I always got sick. And I think that was my body's way of I would hold everything. As a kid, you kind of have to go into the freeze mode. You don't get to run and you don't get to fight. So you kind of go into freeze mode and you kind of retain all of your feelings because you don't have anything else. You don't have another outlet for your feelings. And so my feelings would manifest in illness. And obviously that was my coping mechanism through adulthood, because then I, was kind of struck with a big illness as an adult. And I think that was, so like my spirituality kind of started on this path, and then my health failed. And that started my journey to self-love. Journey of self-love and spirituality kind of meshed together and became my journey of spirituality.
Yeah. Love that.
Yeah.
Love that. Laura.
I don't even feel like I need to speak because Danielle had like the same journey.
You guys really have parallel in that regard, right?
Like to the timing. It's
Wow.
like crazy.
Yeah, that's right.
I know. I mean, when I was growing up, I was always very sensitive. And, I also suffered abuse myself. And so like I said, I was in and out of cycles of depression and anxiety and a lot of tension in my family and things like that. And I was always very close to God. I mean, I would pray for hours. I was always very close to God. And it really took the form of organized religion for most of my life. And then, fast forward, when I guess it was about 7 years ago. I don't even know. I guess at this point, 6 years ago, my mom got sick. Then my dad got sick. I kept getting these notices from the universe, if you want to call them that. And then my dad passed, and then I got sick, and then I got sepsis, and I was really sick. And so along the way, I started to awaken, and I started to become kind of closer to my spirituality again and explore it more with all of these things occurring in succession. And then when I got sick is when I felt really challenged, because for the first time in my life, I was completely helpless, right? Yeah. Completely helpless, which was really very good for me because I'm a control freak. So it was good for me because I was always very I'm a planner, I'm meticulous about things, very type A, and it was really good for me to be in a position to not only have to love myself, but to rely on those who love me and accept that wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
Appreciate that I'm not necessarily going to dictate my own path with my little brain, right?
Right.
So I started on this path, and it was actually a therapist I had been seeing at the time. I started seeing her after my dad got sick, and kind of through that process. And she had planted some seeds for me, you know, about like the spirit, like where this fit in spiritually. And at the time I was like, come on. You know, I was like,
right.
for saying like, this is supposed to happen. Like, forget you know, like I was very resistant. But then, you know, the journey for me has been emotional and physical, but primarily dictated by the physical. And I think that's why it's so good for the three of us to be together here, because there's different things that have brought us, like that have been triggers for us to awaken, right?
Yeah. Yes.
And so for me, I mean, I'm even finding it now. I've been going through a really rough time physically. And even when I'm feeling awful and crying because I'm just like, I can't, right? Yes. I know that on the other side of this, I can feel there's just an enormous shift happening right now. Yeah. And it's a shift I know I have to make, but I wouldn't choose to do it, and that I don't really want to do as a human.
Right.
You know?
And, you know, I think it's interesting too, each one of us, and I've heard this from other people, every single one of us is cataloging about 6 or 7 years ago, and that's round about the 2012 time period. And that was it for me as well, as far as my full blooming awakening. Oh, now I understand what's happening here, what's been happening all along, etc. You know, both of you guys, I love, Danielle, that your family was so open to spirit and spirituality. My family, like Laura's, organized religion. And in fact, I can remember telling my mother things and knowing conversations that she had with individuals, and I would share things with her, or I would just be led to find things or whatever. I just was hyper aware of stuff, and I would share things with people, and I would get how do you know this? Are you listening to my conversations? And so I'd get in trouble. And I would see spirit too, and I would tell my mom, and then she would say, no, that's not, we believe in God and the angels, and that's demonic, and this is that. And so the shame around it. So then I just had to hibernate with it, but I knew what I knew. And I knew that God was with me. I knew that Jesus was with me, and I knew that the angels were with me all the time. And I have periods of time in my life, events that I should not have probably not come out of without being harmed or violated in some way, right? But I know that it's because I was surrounded. Yes.
Yeah.
Right. So fast forward then, and I never shut my kids down. And that, I have chills, so spirit's on me. I never shut my kids down. And we went to church every time the doors were open when they were younger, but I never shut them down. They would tell me, my oldest daughter is highly, highly connected. So is my youngest, and they would tell me things. They would share with me about, you know, spirit being with them or their dreams, and very, very vivid, very lucid, and visitations and all of that. And I absolutely listened, and I still do. And my littles are very connected, and my sister is connected, though she would say it's the Holy Spirit, and I honor that. It's spirit.
Yeah.
But 2012 was when I awakened too, and that's when I then really dove into Reiki, really dove into starting to develop my intuitive awareness. I always heard from spirit along the way. I didn't always listen, got kicked in the teeth when I didn't, right?
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
But 2012 was like, okay, I can't deny this any longer. And then it was a path of devouring books. I was led to people in that realm that were further along or had more of a longer period of acceptance and knowledgeable that I received, you know, labeling. But I understood then what that meant, and that I was in that category. So.
Right, and at the end of the day, it's about trusting. Right? It's about trusting the universe. It's about
yes.
you are going to feel like you're going up and down with your faith too.
Yes.
You know, your trust in this. And so when I say that at the bottom line is trusting spirit, it's like, okay, so if I go into one of those dips where I'm like, really, is this okay? Is this what this is about? Or doubting or what have you? It's trusting that spirit is going to then come in and say, nudge, 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 you know,
Yeah. Wink, wink.
This is
Yeah.
reality. Like, this is your purpose. This is the
Yeah.
reason you are here. And you know, you can always rely on being able to get those signals and those signs. And we can provide clearance to that stuff with our egos and all of that. But I know for me, I had to start off with affirmations. Like, it literally started out as simply as like affirmations, you know, and then
what would you say then to our viewers that are just opening up to this, or they have no freaking clue what any of this is? How would we describe then what is an awakening? What is going on, you know, within their world, or that sort of thing? How did your awareness come into that? I know for the two of you, it was your healing crisis.
Go ahead, Danielle.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So I don't want to say mine was entirely my healing crisis. I think mine was the loss of my brother, that I think opened up the spirituality part. And then kind of as the year went on, because it was like about a year, as the year went on and I tried to go back to my regular life, then my health started failing. And then that's when I kind of I really got like just shoved into bed, and they're like, you're going to be here and you're going to listen and you're going to have to figure things out. And I remember one of my mentors saying to me, because I was still in victim kind of land, and and I don't like to use the word victim because I know Brené Brown says that that's judgmental, you know, if you say that, but
it's a real archetype that we can all play at any time in our life.
I was, exactly. And I was talking about my illness, and she said to me, I don't know why you're sick. I don't know why you're sick. But what I do know is that you now have the opportunity to lay in bed when you don't feel good, and you don't have to get up and go to work. Now you have the opportunity to lay in bed and listen to what spirit needs for you, because maybe what you need is like 7 years of sleep because you have neglected your sleep for so many years.
Wow.
You know, when you're tired, lay down and you get to. When you feel good, get up, you get to.
Yes.
You know, so she basically told me, like, you have to stop living in this. You have to stop living in it, and you need to look for the blessings in it. Like, not everybody is blessed enough to be able to quit their job. You know, not everybody is blessed enough to be able to move to a climate that's more conducive to my body post disease.
Right.
You know, not everybody has the same support system within their family. You know, I know one of my infusion nurses was telling me that after her diagnosis with multiple sclerosis, her ex-husband started beating her.
Wow.
And I was like, what? And she was like, it's so common.
Yeah.
You don't realize how common these things are because it triggers their fear.
Yeah.
And it triggers something that they've never been exposed to.
Yes.
So I feel like most of the people that awaken go through an earth-shattering life experience.
Whatever that looks like, right?
Spouse, a parent, a sibling, a really close loved one, whether that's losing a job and losing their home and losing everything financially that they've ever had, whether that's losing their health. But I don't know, I've never encountered somebody that just like stepped onto the spiritual path and was like not scathed by anything.
Right.
So
like adversity free, right? Yeah, exactly.
Like that's the jolt. Like that's the hit that we need. Like that impact to be like, whoa, and like almost like I'm thinking of the Wizard of Oz right now. You know, like almost everything was black and white, very rigid and very no gray area, no outer thinking,
Yes.
especially in the circle of organized religion, which
Yes.
I was very much into organized religion as well, and very much love the Bible and love the stories and love God.
Yes.
But it was very like, this is the way it is, and don't have a mind of your own.
Yes.
No thinking.
Yes.
And then get hit by a tornado and you get swept up into it. And then when you stop, everything is different. And you can't go back knowing the things you know now.
Yeah. Let's, what does it look like when we finally awaken to, so that voice inside of us, the voice within, right? And I think for a lot of people, most everyone can say, yes, I have had moments where the hairs on the back of my neck rose and I heard a voice, I heard something telling me, don't go there, don't be with this person, avoid this, whatever, stay late, et cetera, warning us from something, right?
Totally.
Well, okay, so I know for myself, I began to really take notice of that. I have key milestones in my life. My crisis was losing my marriage, my practice marriage, which was a good thing for all involved, really. Going through that, and then I just fell off the rails, and it really concerned my family, and that kind of was my crisis trigger. But I remember standing in my bedroom, I was putting my laundry away, and I was walking back to my bed. I can still experience it in my mind, walking back to my bed, grabbing more clothes, and I was stopped dead in my tracks. And I had this sense that somebody was right in front of me, off to the right-hand side, looking at me, speaking to me, saying, your marriage is over, and don't worry about it. We're here to help you, and we're just preparing you for that. There's no need to be afraid. And I just remember that experience and just feeling like this rain shower, literally physically rain shower of chills and peace come over me. And my marriage was a source of stress and strain and crisis and all of that. For many reasons, but I just remember going, oh, okay, cool. All right, now I know there's an end to this, and okay. And 6 months to the day later, it was over. We were done, and papers were being filed and all of that. And there's other markers in my life, but I would say when I started giving my intentional awareness to this, that's when I started really deeply listening and honoring. And sometimes we can confound ourselves thinking that it's our own mind saying this, but I'll tell you, there is a depth and a level to when spirit speaks to us, right? It's stuff that's contrary to what our own desires are. So can you guys go into depth on that and, speak to like how you know the difference? It's different now. I know chills come on me when spirit's in my presence or when I'm in their presence. And now it's become automatic, but in the development of it, how is that for you guys?
You want to go, Lauren?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple different, I think it's different for a lot of people. And I think it's also different depending on what your trigger was that brought you to this, because for me, mine was mostly health related. And so my body is truly a tool for me. So I can feel the physical sensations when I am receiving messages from spirit and when I am thinking with my mind, because if I'm in the Akashic records and I'm getting these messages.
Well, how was it for you before you even were trained in the Akashic? Because speaking to like your initial connection with all of this.
Yeah, so my initial connection, I would say so for me physically, I'll get like a tingling sensation, like at the top of my head, feel a little lightheaded, and also feel almost like a little spacey.
Has it always been like that for you?
I would say since the beginning of my journey. Yeah.
Okay.
And also, I would say, I'm sure a lot of you understand that, for instance, if you're going into the kitchen to get something for lunch and you're kind of opening the fridge or you're looking in the cabinet and you're kind of like, ugh, that doesn't sound good to me, or ugh, that's like a gut feeling, right? And it's not necessarily something that you don't like, something that you don't desire, but you feel like, ugh, I know if I eat that right now, it's going to make me sick. Like that kind of feeling, that's the kind of awareness that I'm talking about when you're trying to discern between what's my ego and what is this intuitive nudge that's really guided by spirit, right? So it's like, okay, what's kind of feeling right to you? Like, all right, I know I need to, like, you'll meet somebody new and they'll say, oh, hey, you want to go out to lunch? Oh, you're so cool. Like, I love you, blah, blah, blah. And you're thinking, I'm not feeling that. Not really sure why, but I'm not feeling that. That's energy. That's intuition, right? And being able to feel what that nudge feels like, sometimes it's butterflies in your stomach. Sometimes it's like a physical backing away. Sometimes it's chills. Sometimes it's feeling flushed. But like it's an inner knowing without having facts or evidence to back it up.
And is that how that materialized for you? I know it's how it comes to you now, but how was it for you when you initially, like when you were younger, in your younger self or whatever, when you're, even before you had language to it, how was that? Because I'm speaking to the viewers that have like no clue right now of what any of this is, right?
Well, some of
starting from scratch, and they're like, how do I know if it's me or if it's spirit speaking to me?
Well, I mean, synchronicities, things come through in signs, right? So, I've always said for years, 3 times makes a pattern. So if you get 3 things in a row or 3 signs in a row, it's like, yeah, that's not a coincidence.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So coincidences are something that a lot of people run into. I know, Danielle, that's something that's really strong for you. That's played a part in your journey, right?
Oh, very much, very much. I was very, very blessed very early on in my awakening to be brought to my teachers, because in the very first class that I took in mediumship, they taught us the difference between ego and higher self. And they taught us how to discern and distinguish the voices inside of our head. So we all have the voices inside of our head. And I talk about it as like, you consider like the little, when we're kids and we watch the cartoons and you have the angel on your shoulder and the devil on your shoulder. Like that's basically like our ego and our higher self. They don't necessarily argue with each other like they do in the cartoons, and they're not dramatized the way they are in the cartoons, but that's kind of the way that I see it, because it helps me to make them physical manifestations in my life. And so basically we were taught, listen to the voices in your head. So if you don't have any idea what's going on, if you don't feel, this is the thing. I feel like when you're first starting, you do feel something. Otherwise you wouldn't be drawn to this, right? Like before we awakened, we didn't even know that this part of the world existed. Like I didn't know there was anything about spirituality in classes, and I didn't know any of that. So I feel like a lot of the people know that they're feeling something, but paying attention to your own energy is the most important. Like Laura says, like listen to how you feel when you interact with people. And you don't have to judge it, just acknowledge it. Like when I talk to you, I feel really good. I feel excited. I feel uplifted when I leave. Or if I talk to somebody else, I might feel like really drained and really tired, or I might have kind of a nagging headache and I'm not really sure why. Those are the energy exchanges. You have to become aware of your energy first, and you have to start taking responsibility for your energy. It's just like taking responsibility for your living space. You have to maintain it. You have to keep it. I mean, not all of us are at the same level of cleanliness, but you have to keep it maintained to your standards, and you lock your front door at night before you go to bed if you live in an urban area, same thing with your energy. This is your home. This is your domain. And you get to decide who you allow in and what you allow out. And you need to be aware of it. And so learning to manage that energy, I think, is most important first. Just paying it. I'm sorry, go ahead, Laura.
No. And I think like at the beginning, you know, when you're kind of going with those intuitive nudges or you're listening to that voice in your head, you know, of course, as soon as you say that, the first thought I have is a lot of my patients who do have mental illness or are struggling with, okay, do I have the best judgment, or which voice is this in my head? Right. And so I think part of it is trial and error in this process, my friends. Some of it is, I'm going to listen to this voice and I'm going to take a chance, because there's a lot of courage involved in this process.
Yes.
So, okay, without the evidence, without everybody approving of me and giving me validation, I'm going to take a step towards this anyway. And then how do you know? You know, because of the joy and the freedom and the relief that you feel when you take that step. And I'm not talking about temporary relief that some people would choose if they're doing something impulsive because they're feeling desperate at the time or something like that. I'm talking about long-standing joy that lasts, right?
Yes.
It might last for a couple days. It might last for a few days. It might last for weeks. It might last for months. And then when you hit that wall, you're like, okay, I got to tune in again, right? Because obviously when I made a choice based on this before, it helped me. It assisted me, right? And the more you use it, the more it expands, the stronger it becomes.
And the Bible calls that the peace that transcends all understanding. And like you guys have been saying, sometimes we have no empirical, no outward evidence of why it is that we should be doing what we're doing, or hearing or listening to what we're listening to, right?
Right. But also
it proves itself out.
Right, exactly. But also just being aware and paying attention to your thoughts, and being, like Eckhart Tolle says, be the observer of your thoughts. Be the observer of what's going on. Because once you can kind of pull yourself back from the reaction, the emotion, the thoughts that are going on in your head, and you can just watch and observe, it's not difficult. It's not difficult to recognize, oh, that's my ego. And we talk about ego being this horrible thing that always gets us in trouble, but I personally love my ego. My ego has saved my ass a few times. And ego stands up and fights for what's right sometimes too. Also are times when my higher self, when I can recognize, oh, that's my ego, because I'll tell you guys, my ego voice comes from the left side behind my ear, back here is where the voice comes from. And my higher self voice comes from the right side up here.
Same.
Right?
Yes.
So that's my first indicator. And then my second indicator is always the type of conversation that it's having, because it can be really beautiful and manipulative too. So you have to really listen and then question it. Question what your thoughts are. Like, what's my intention with this thought? Like, I'm really pissed off that the barista didn't see me, or I don't know, whatever. I'm really pissed off about this situation over here. Okay, so if I just pull back for a minute and take a deep breath and I listen, where are the voices coming from? If it's coming from back here, I say to my ego, I love you so much. Thank you so much for protecting me my whole life, because that's all it's trying to do, is protect and save you. That's it.
Well, and so
allow that to come forward.
That concept of, and I love that Eckhart Tolle said that, because we are not the thoughts that we think. We are not the experiences that we have. We are the observer behind all of that. And that's so true. And
you can't be it if you know you're having it.
Absolutely. And that's called metacognition, is thinking about thinking and examining what's happening up here. And I love that you're saying this and hearing, you know, Brene Brown talks about hearing the stories that are rolling around in our head, right? That we either have been conditioned to believe, and then whose story is that, right? Where did that story come from? Or was it our childlike mind just simply trying to make meaning of the world, right? Donna has a question for us. Are you guys ready for this?
Yeah.
Okay. Donna's question is, have any, and she's coming from the UK. She's watching from the UK, you guys.
Thank you for being with us.
Yes. She wants to know, have any of you had the experience of seeing repeating numbers throughout the day? I have the seventh seal that seems to speed up manifestations and guides me. She follows Saint Germain codes. I don't know much about Saint Germain codes, but my answer is, yeah, I see numbers all the time, right?
All the time.
All the time.
In fact, we share those back and forth with each other and within the groups that we're involved in, and constant synchronicities, right?
Constant synchronicities. And also along that path, like I know Laura and you guys have talked, you also, Ray, have talked about it on your previous show together about utilizing the tools, right? And like having cards and like those numbers, that's a tool. Yes. It's a tool that whatever higher consciousness you believe in, whether it's angels, spirit, God, Allah, whatever, source energy, the universe, that's a tool that they can utilize to communicate with us, to say you're on the right path, to say, hey, you've got a big obstacle coming up, but we're here, we've got your back. I mean, that happened to me 2 weeks ago. Remember, hawks are a big thing. Hawks are like huge. Like for my brother passed away, and that's like my sign for him, right? Yeah. I hadn't seen a hawk in like a year because I was seeing them all the time. And then I started questioning, like, maybe it's just because we live in the desert and we're kind of out in the middle of nowhere. So it's kind of
everywhere. Yeah.
They're everywhere. Right. And then they stopped.
Right.
And I didn't see one for like a year. And I started like, I'm like, shit, excuse my French. What did I do?
Right.
What did I do? And then I had a really difficult week a few weeks ago. And I got a message because I kept seeing 555 and I kept seeing big changes. And I kept pulling cards. So you guys were talking about pulling cards. I pulled a card for myself, and it was like, you've got a struggle coming up, but it's going to open your eyes to some things. You're good. The whole week I saw probably 25 hawks. Wow. I'm not even kidding. I mean, I saw 4 on the way to the airport to pick up one person. I mean, it was like, so they come to us through all sorts of things. It's not just numbers, but is numbers and license plates and animals.
Yes.
And cards.
Animals,
tools, right?
Coins, right? Yeah.
Yeah, they're tools that are provided.
Yeah.
And I think that's why it's really important for us, on the heels of our previous conversation about observing the mind and observing our thoughts and metacognition, to talk about those tools, because you know, I know for a lot of my clients, going into, say, meditation or observing their thoughts is very daunting for them, and is not something that's realistic right off the bat. It is not the first step to say, I'm going to observe my thoughts, because there's just way too much going on. And so it's really implementing a lot of those tools first, in order to clear the way to be able to sit and observe our thoughts, right? So
particularly people in trauma, right? They have to be connected first in this space, in their body, because we live so disconnected. For years, I was disconnected from my body.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you what I was feeling at any given time, or why, or where, or anything like that. I was just reacting, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So is that something that you take your clients through first then, particularly those?
Oh my gosh, yeah. Take a tool at a time, you know, and we practice them together in sessions, and then they practice them, and they start to internalize them some, and then we add another tool. And if they don't jive with that tool, or it's activating them too much, we put another tool at a time, you know. And once they find something that they can practice consistently, then they start, you can see the changes occur. They start to shift, and their energy starts to calm, you know?
I think another great tool, and that would work in that arena too, and very non-threatening, is writing, journaling, right? Wouldn't you say? And allowing yourself to just not edit, but just like stream of consciousness, just simply start beginning writing. When I started this process, that's what I would do with my journaling. And I would literally, whatever word was coming in here or formulating in my mind, that's the word I wrote down. So literally, if it was like cake, toast, frozen, feel good, spaghetti, mustard, ketchup, you know, in my thoughts, those were the words that I wrote down. And then suddenly it became free flowing, and it actually made sense, and it was my subconscious mind then was speaking. And yes, and started giving me messages, really. And that for me was huge. And
what I like about that process that is so helpful for my clients when they're stuck in that space is really helping to identify and have an awareness of what thoughts are their own and what thoughts are the stories from other people in their lives or from their past or the old version of them. You know, but really being able to start delineating that and having it on physical paper and reading it back is one way to help gain awareness of that.
Absolutely. And now, was that part of your process that you were brought through, Danielle, when you determined that, hey, mediumship is the direction I need to head? Was that a tool that, or is that something that organically developed with you? Because I know that you journal as well. Yeah,
I'm not as good at it as I should be. But when I first started, honestly, it was like weeks, maybe. Like I jumped right into classes.
Oh, wow.
So, I mean, I didn't really sit in wonder for very long. I was guided very quickly to the groups. And so, yeah, I was kind of told to journal. So it was just kind of part of the beginning mediumship classes, like journaling, meditation, trying to connect for a little bit, like raising your energetic vibration, you know, developing spiritual hygiene. But the thing is, though, that now that I'm kind of see the bigger picture, I see that I needed to go through the healing journey as well. So Laura and I feel like are a little bit different in that regard. Like, I feel like most people start the healing journey first and then spirituality comes. Whereas, or like the mediumship or the spirit connection, I should say, like, I didn't understand in the beginning why I would read all these books and they're like, you need to sit in healing circles and you need to do healing and you need to heal and you need to heal. And I'm like, what is all this healing stuff?
Right.
But now I didn't connect it. Yeah. But now I recognize like that self-healing. I felt like that was actually like the key for me. Like I had already started awakening. And so I was able to have that spirit connection, but my ego hadn't completely allowed my higher self to kind of step in and kind of take the wheel of my life.
Yeah.
And I feel like that healing journey, and that was what I needed, because I needed to learn to trust me. I needed to learn to love me and to feel comfortable inside of me. Yeah. That was the first thing that I needed. And I think that's where the grounding comes in, and that coming into yourself, because you're right. I was totally detached and I was just a reaction. I was no thought process.
Yeah. Yeah. I also saw a difference. I felt a huge shift when I was receiving energy healing from others or spiritual healing from others that they were guiding me through. And then when I became Reiki attuned,
yes,
when I started doing the work on my own,
yes,
there's a very different feel to it. And even now, there's some times where I'll reach out to you guys and be like, I need healing. And sometimes when I'm like, I got to just go in and do this myself, you know?
Right.
There's a different feel to it, but when you are actually immersing yourself in the process of doing it, it's the process itself that's healing, which is why healing yourself, like you were saying, Danielle, you then rely on you. And if you practice the spiritual hygiene and you have this consistency about it, then you start to rely on yourself. Because if you have anybody in your life who's a consistent presence, good or bad, you're going to start to expect that. It becomes automatic. You become reliant on it, good or bad, right?
Totally.
So,
and I want to talk to you about that. It's key. It's okay to pursue help from others. Absolutely, 100%. Especially in those times when, maybe you aren't you don't have these energy practices or whatever, but it is critical to take ownership of your healing journey and of your own life and your experiences as well. Yeah, my world vastly increased when I began learning and diving into these modalities and that sort of thing. But I had to take ownership of them, and my healing process kind of was happening simultaneously at that level too. Holly has a question. She has a comment first. She says, well, Betty says, she agrees with you, Danielle, taking notice of where the messages are coming from, what side of the body. And then she says it's important to become aware of what we need healing. Most of us go around thinking, I'm fine, I'm not sick, but spirit may be missing a part because of trauma. And then trauma helps us learn who and what.
I love that a lot, Betty. Love that.
Yeah.
Huge. Now, Holly says, Donna says, I struggled trusting what I was getting from spirit because I had to learn to trust myself due to trauma too. And I think all of us agree with that as well, right? Same experience. Yeah. Holly says, I used to get messages through dreams about family, things that hadn't happened yet, and signs from God. We resonate with that. I've also had the feeling of spirit come over me. Then I had 2 major traumas happen very close together. I'm doing better regarding the traumas, but I don't know if the certain things that are coming through are on the same level that they used to be on. Anyone have something coming through for that? I would say that, like Danielle said before, we've said once you awaken, you can't go back to the way things were materializing for you before. So it does take on a very, spirit's on me, I'm freezing. Takes on a very different flavor, a different feel, a different experiential level. So we can and we do are brought through those shifts through the experiences that we go through. And that includes trauma. Spirit uses anything and everything in our life to get our attention and to shift us, right? Wouldn't you say?
You need to expect that it's going to keep coming back. You need to expect that, because that's part of our, what we call up leveling in the spiritual world, like continue to progress, right?
Yes.
And expand spiritually is that it's not a test, but it's that we aren't going to be given something that we can't tolerate or integrate at the time. Right. So, I think that when that comes to you, if you show it gratitude and trust that, yes, I am further along than I was the last time that I processed this, because now I'm in a space where obviously spirit knows that I have tools that I didn't have before, which means that I move forward, right? And it means that I now have tools to process this at a higher level, a wider level, to expand to others even.
Yeah. What were you going to say about that, Danielle?
Yeah, that's basically exactly what I was going to say. Like, I always think of the Shrek movies, and when he says ogres have onions, like our ogres are like onions, and onions have layers. Like we have layer after layer after layer. And how many times have the 3 of us had the conversation where I'm like, damn it, I thought I was over this.
Yes, all the time.
Each other.
Yes.
Yeah, you did. You got over that level. So now it's being reintroduced to you at another level, at another vibration, right? It's like a stepping stone up.
Yeah, but we're saying at another vibration, because I think what people can feel is, oh, well, this sounds like a great path. I'm just going to be tortured for the rest of my life. Right? That's not how it is.
It's not.
Right? Not at all. Because literally it's about, when I'm in that space, I'm able to get out of it.
Yeah.
Like, I snap my mindset out of it quicker, because I know what's on the other side. Because every freaking time it happens, on the other side is so much. It's that freedom that I've always been goaling for, right?
Constantly being cleaned and cleared, and cleared. Yep. Donna says, do you think that we are put through these big challenges to break us open and bring out the light in us?
Just like Rumi.
Just like Rumi, just like Leonard Cohen, the song, all of the cracks is just letting the light in, right?
It lets the light in,
Right, and with kintsugi, I love the artwork, Japanese artwork of kintsugi, where they take and put together broken pieces of pottery woven with silver and gold and platinum and fine metals, right?
That's right.
And it's even more beautiful, and it's more valuable, even when it's been broken open.
Yeah,
A seed seeds have to be broken open in order for the plant or the tree to emerge. Go ahead, Lauren. Yeah.
I'm raising my hand.
Yes.
So, what would you say, girls, about the people who have those traumatic experiences or those breakthrough moments, let's say, that don't lead them on a spiritual path, that don't lead to an awakening?
Right.
I feel for those people because we see them every day.
Yeah.
And when they're going through that really difficult struggle and they're just not getting it, I just pray for them. And I just say, like, they haven't hit the bottom yet. Like, they still have a couple more layers to go before they hit the bottom.
Well, and I can even say in my own life, I have had multiple times of trauma. And listen, trauma is not to compare. It's not like your trauma is worse than mine or mine's worse than your, right? Trauma is trauma.
It's
and
just
I've
trauma.
Had multiple, right? Repeated through decades. I'm 50 now. You guys, I'm a quarter of a century. And I own it. But I had so many decades of that and still wasn't, fully getting it, but it was leading me incrementally to when I did to this moment now. And I cannot erase any of it, nor do I want to, nor do I regret it.
Right.
And there's some people who don't necessarily awaken, but that doesn't mean that they haven't progressed on their soul's journey.
Right.
Before they leave this earth.
Right.
Truth. Because not everybody is supposed to awaken in this lifetime.
Right. Right. Or at the same time.
Right.
Right. Though I see that collectively right now in this period of time and in this, what is it? The age of Aquarius, is that what it is? In this manifest time opportunity that a lot of us are shifting and awakening very rapidly. And it's increasing. But you're absolutely right. I would say that's dependent upon that soul level contract that they hold.
Right.
For this lifetime and the lessons they're here to learn. Betty says I'm a baby, you guys. She says, I'm 66 years young. I love you, Betty.
I love Betty. I love her so much. She's my medium mom.
I love her. Hi, medium mom. I love you. Holly says, I've had 2 dreams about the same thing and I don't know what to do about it.
Ooh.
I'm
not a dream interpreter, so I don't know.
Right. I mean, I know you've been in touch with Haley Lynn. She's the lucid mystic and she's the dream queen.
Right.
And so I don't know if you've been practicing writing your dreams down. And the thing I would say is if you really are practicing the lucid dreaming techniques, is that when you're in a flow with that, you have the control and ability to enter your dream and ask what they mean. You have the ability to go into the Akashic records with me or by yourself once you learn that, to ask those questions. What does this mean? Right.
Well, and even just consulting spirit and just saying, hey, help me out here, help me with the interpretation of this, and not knowing what those dreams are. And it's immaterial for us to know the specifics of it. But I would say if you're having that same dream, then they're communicating. There is a communication there for you, and it's the attention. So like Laura said, write down what that dream is, what those details are, and then ask spirit to give you further information. But it's to get your awareness and your attention, right?
Well, and to trust, to trust that you're going to get the message, whether it's consciously or consciously, because we as humans always want to know the answer, right?
Always.
We always want to know the answer and have like a fix, or, I need to know what this is so I know what to do. Well, just trust that you are getting the message. You want to know right now, but maybe you're not meant to know right now.
Right.
No, because even if you did consult spirit in whatever avenue that you consult spirit, you're only going to get the feedback that they want you to have right now, or that
this is a Right. And this is a long game in that it's not a sprint. This is more of an entire lifelong journey. And, you know, and then on into the next incarnation as well. So it's time is immaterial to spirit. So whether the revelation comes to you 5 years from now, it's instantaneous for spirit. So that's immaterial too, right? But it could be that it's just they're asking you to build your awareness and, you know, stay maintained. The three of us, we just recently were in a situation that looked very advantageous to all three of us. It was a welcomed opportunity. We couldn't believe it. We were pinching ourselves. We were like, this is amazing and incredible. And a couple weeks into the three of us going into this and saying yes to this opportunity, Spirit stood in front of me and just stopped me in my tracks like it did in the bedroom in my living room and said, are you willing to walk away from this? And I went, what? Yeah, okay, but are you telling me that? And they just kept repeating it. Are you willing to walk away from this? And I said, okay, but are you telling me to walk away from this? And they just said, are you willing to walk away from this? And I finally just said, okay, yes. And then they said nothing else about it until weeks later, just, you know, in the last couple of weeks. And then three of us were like, oh yeah, that did happen. And now we understand it. We didn't have the level of information that we needed in our human manifestation, but we caught up to what that level of information was. And then Spirit said, oh yeah, I reminded you guys, remember? And we were like, oh yeah, okay, we're up, we're done. Yeah. And it was an easy decision then at that point, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're at an hour and 25-minute mark.
We are.
I just realized that. So
I know.
We might want to wrap up our show and these amazing people that have stuck with us.
Right?
Thank you.
We've gotten a lot of engagement. This is fantastic.
Yeah, it's great.
It's awesome. All right. So quickly, how can people find each one of us and work with us or, you know, et cetera, et cetera? You go, Laura.
Oh, okay. So you can find me on my website, theakashictherapist.com, or on my Facebook page, Emerge Healing and Wellness. And you want to contact me if you are having any issue that's going on chronically for you, whether it's mental health, negativity, trauma, medical health, right? Because I access the Akashic records and can use Reiki and tapping, which is EFT, an energy psychology technique in that space, and do a lot of clearing and healing all the way through to past lives if you need to help you move forward and gain an understanding of your purpose, what purpose you're here for, and also what purpose this difficulty is presenting for in your life. So feel free to reach out to me via private message as well on Facebook, and I'm happy to get back to you.
All right, Miss Danielle.
You can find me on my website at daniellehopewolf.com, or you can also find me on Facebook or Instagram. My Facebook handle is Danielle Hope Wolf, and my Instagram handle is danielle.hope.wolf. People that come to see me, if you'd like to come see me, I hold a space for your loved ones who've departed. I also offer spiritual advising, intuitive guidance, medical intuition, also with the intuitive guidance there. Mentoring, I do a little bit of mentoring on the side as well for mediumship and spirituality.
All right, so Laura has a group right now called Evolve, and it's a meditation and journaling group that you can get involved in, and that's on her page as well. Danielle has a class coming up on biology of mediumship. So if any of you are interested in that too, you can hit Danielle up, private message her for that as well. So Donna wants us to leave our links. So after the show is done, each of us will put our links in the comments. Absolutely. You can find me here, of course, in the Healing Space on Facebook. My website is thehealingspaceco.com. There's no www, it's just thehealingspaceco.com. I have a email list, so at the top of my page, please subscribe there. And I'm getting ready to roll out my Raise Reminders newsletter. And then you can book any services you want to there through the website as well. I have courses. I have a Connecting with Your Intuition course. It's a beginner's course. I also have an intermediate intuition development course as well. So if you're interested, private message me. You can find me on Instagram as thehealingspaceco.com, or not .com, but just thehealingspaceco. I'm on Twitter as the Healing Space CO, I believe, or no, Twitter is Raylan Dow. I don't know. Anyway, you can find me on Twitter. And I also have right now, if you're interested, I have a special freebie offer going on. If I have 10 questions to know if you're a healer. So sign up for my email and you'll receive that. It's a PDF. Got some great questions to ask yourself and some information there. And again, I do emotion code sessions. I do coaching. I do one-on-one insight sessions, spirit messages. I channel We Are We consciousness as well. So lots of things going on from any one of the three of us. We are also working to collaborate together on some projects too. So that'll be rolling out in the future as well. So thank you guys. Holly says, I love hearing your stories. It's crazy how many of us have so much in common. She says, you're wonderful. And she's a little baby starting on this journey and she loves the guidance we give.
Awesome. I put it up here too. So I also see Rachel's post. So I love you, Rachel. Yeah, just text me or call me, whatever. We can have chat. No worries.
Cool. Okay, so that must be on your page then, because I don't see Rachel's.
Oh, okay.
No worries. Thank you guys for tuning in.
Thank you, everybody.
Premiere episode, and catch us not next Thursday, but the Thursday after that when we go live again, clearing the lens, clarity on your path of awakening. Thank you guys.
Bye,
everybody. God bless you all.
Bye.